I've been standing here for 50 years. You know something? I'm hot. Get out of here. I ain't talking about the old days. I'm H-O-T, hot. Come on, bird, shoot. Why, I'm living in a nice, cool desert. Well, this is the desert, I guess. Rats. Now I'm all wet. Hey, what? Hey, I see you. What's wrong? I am very, very hot. I've been standing here for 50 years. Wow. You must have a hard life. Well, let me tell you. Let's get to Raiders breaks. Thanks.
I feel paralyzed.
Everyone, it's Mariners Day 290. So today we're going to be taking a custom review on Steve Ogden. Well, I called him Steve Ogden because in the short Overheated, which link in the description, and the car voiced Steve Ogden, and yes, the Overheated short is a fan-made short back in December of 2007 from a YouTuber named the D-Dub Show. So yes, it was a very memorable short and an iconic short in my opinion. I remember watching that short back a long time ago, and yes, I decided to make this custom Steve Ogden. Well, before I begin the review, yes, there's a screenshot of the Cars on the Road poster, which is going to be out in a month, September 8, 2022. I am so hyped for Cars on the Road. It's coming to Disney Plus, and if you don't have Disney Plus, I feel bad for you. And you can check out my reaction video on that. That was my latest video. There will be a card right above. And yes, there's a screenshot. If you don't know who Steve Ogden is, it's from the short Overheated. He is having a miserable life for 50 years. He's been stranded in the desert. So without further ado, let's review Steve Ogden. And yes, I got these before we talk about him. Yes, this is his accessories, like the bricks that I got at Legoland like a week ago. And there's an extra tire, and this is like an oil tank. So let's review him. Here is Steve Ogden. This is a custom I made like 2 weeks ago. This is the P17th week of 2021. And yes, this is my Extra Clovis rider. There, because you can tell, you can slightly see the yellow, and the gray is the scraps, and the red and the brown is the dirt, and the brown is the rust, and the black, he lost his door, unfortunately. Man, he must have a miserable life, and he has no rubber tires. So yes, I got the Lego tires and taped them as rims. On that side, it's so beaten up, but on the other side, it's less beaten up. And the hood here is so scrapped up. No license plate. Yes, I must feel bad for him. He must have had a hard life. And you can, and yes, I used, if you're wondering how I made this custom, yes, I used a blue paint marker for 2 coats. 2 days later, I just used the dark brown paint. 2 hours ago, I used the light paint. Another day later, I just scraped him on some cement. After that, I used the gray paint marker to make him scrappy. And at the end, I just colored his mouth like a bumper piece. And yes, also I just put duct tape on the eyes so he won't get messy. And I also took off his tires from an Extra Clovis rider. And I wasn't able to do the door, unfortunately. I don't want to break it because it will be too violent, in my opinion. I'm very happy that I made this custom. It might be one of my best customs, in my opinion. So yes, let's compare them to Otis because they're very, very similar, and plus they're broken down cars. Otis is lucky because he does have some flat rubber tires. But this is my Thailand Otis that I got on eBay. I wasn't able to find him at a store. They look very, very similar, so Otis is more happy that Maida helped him, but Steve is not, unfortunately. So which one is better, Steve Ogden or Otis? Well, to be honest, I'll have to go with Steve Ogden because he is more memorable than Otis. But what is yours? Let's compare them to some cousins. Here are Maida's cousins, the storytellers. They're more happy than Steve Ogden. Steve Ogden is in a lot of pain. Maida's cousins are more chubbier than Steve Ogden. Let's compare him to Dewey. Dewey is the best in my opinion because of the metallic. I adore the metallic a lot. Dewey is definitely my favorite Thomasville racer, in my opinion. Let's compare them to Slim Hood because they're very, very similar. Both of them are blue. Slim is one of my least favorites because he has a very, very weak design. Unfortunately, Slim was only released in before the coronavirus. Let's compare him to Clovis because this is an Extra Clovis I got at the Chicago Ridge Auto Store 3 months ago. Clovis is more happier than Steve. You can barely see the 41 on Steve. Now let's compare them to Race Damage Mood Springs because they're both in a lot of pain. Race Damage Mood Springs is extremely rare. One of the more desirable and iconic final lap cars. I got Damage Mood Springs, known as Damage Chuck Armstrong, out because they're very, very damaged. But which one has the worst beating? Steve Ogden or Race Damage Mood Springs? Well, I'll have to go with Steve Ogden because he's been out in the heat for 50 years and been homeless, and he ran out of gas and it's all rusty. But what is yours? Let me just get the bricks back. that'll do it for today's review on Steve Ogden from the short Overheated. And I totally hope you enjoyed this review and my custom review for Steve Ogden. And we'll see you next time, and goodbye.